Welcome to Vanadium. Answering the mail. June 1st, 2020. Well, shit. All hell is breaking loose out there, people. And I know that with all the excitement out there couldn't be anything more exciting other than me answering my emails. On today's episode of Vanadium, I'll be answering the mail. So, I haven't been getting very many emails. There's been a trickle. Well, actually, it's only been a short period of time since my last one. And people are pretty busy these days. And also, maybe they're a bit afraid of me just reading their email out aloud. But I won't use anybody's names unless they really want me to. But I have just a couple questions I wanted to answer this week that I just thought were kind of relevant. Non-COVID related, or now I guess the newest thing is the whole purge-style anarchy that's taking hold of everything. Which, my goodness. I'll get to that maybe by the end of the podcast, but let me just answer some questions first. So, one question that I've had a lot of people ask me, and this is one that the answer has evolved kind of over the years, and it's, no one left their name for this one, but do you read your book reviews? Hell yes, I read my book reviews. So, I especially love the bad ones. And there have been some bad ones that I remember so well. And I'm actually going to read a couple of them. There have been some good ones that have really touched my heart. But nothing really gets to you like a bad review of something that you spent years working on. Especially when you know there's maybe a grain of truth to what they're saying. Which is when it really kind of... But it's all right. We grow. And also I think I've gotten better. And some of these reviews are really critical of my earlier books. And both these reviews, they have a point, and they're very well written, and they're very funny, and they're both 1 star. Now, I've had very many good ones. If you look overall, my books are pretty positively rated. I'm pretty pleased with them. But I have to say that my easygoing attitude about bad reviews I did not start off that way. And it's a crazy transition, considering how hard I used to take it when I first started writing, and how I would basically hang on every word of every review that trickled through. And it takes a lot of books being sold, read, and commented on before someone really will even think to put it up on review. And so you get a very small subset of actual readers. And so I actually think, now that I have the right perspective, I'm amazed by how positive the reviews have been. I'm very lucky. But man, some of those early bad reviews really stung. They haunted me. Haunted is the right word. And I would be scared to look online. Oh, is the next one going to be bad? Oh, I just sold a bunch, or I had a giveaway. There's going to be a bad review that's going to come through. And it was almost paralyzing. And then after a while, you just sort of keep doing it, and you get better at it, and you just stop taking it to heart, really, because you need to keep doing it for whatever reason. Maybe it's part of your income. Maybe it's just you refuse to give up. For me, it was more that I just fucking refused to give up. And I didn't really want to be deterred, and also I wanted to get better. And I knew that these people had a point. Sometimes they were just being fucked up. And there's some of that, and you're going to think this isn't even constructive criticism. It's not even criticism, really. They're just telling me, Chris, you suck. And that's what I really love. And I'm blessed that I have these on the internet that I can read and just chuckle at. And I'm going to read a couple of, here's one review that I got very early on for Creating Monsters. And Creating Monsters was my first book. And it's the least well written. There's a lot, I don't know, a first book is really interesting because a lot of authors, first project of any kind, you don't know what you're doing. You don't even know what a project is while you're doing it. And it's not really, you do it a few times, you really get the idea of the whole process and what it is, because, somebody's scary out there. It's just kids playing. Although it sounded like a horror movie scream for a second. It's really, this first review is a very well-written review. It's very negative. And, but, oh man, did it sting at first. And I'm going to leave the gentleman's name out. And this I read back in 2014. So my book had been out like not even a couple of years, but I was still like, Googling all the time and going on Amazon to see if anybody had anything to say about me. And when somebody wrote something good, I'd be like, oh, okay. And then it would provide me a small bit of relief, but it wouldn't have nearly the effect as a negative review, which was interesting. I learned that the magnitude of the positive feelings of a good review did not nearly equal the magnitude of the negative feeling of a negative review, which is like a weird kind of biased. And I realized that about myself, and I've kind of worked through it a little bit. But this review is titled, I Kept Wanting to Like This. And Creating Monsters is a long book. And so he read the whole thing, and he clearly read the whole thing. So he got through it. So this is the way it starts off. This book does have some kind of appeal. Well, that's good. I kept reading it, kept wanting it to be good, which is something, considering how much is wrong with it. I don't know if there's a paragraph without grammatical errors, strangely wrong words, weird shifts of point of view, or other odd discontinuities. Yeah, some of that I think would be some style, right? That at least took on a kind of hypnotic charm. Kind of a compliment there. A stylish locomotion compiled out of constant stumbles. Well, didn't get all the way to a compliment, but fuck it, I'll take it. The main characters are absurdly super smart at creating physics-defying super inventions and absurdly stupid about failing to put them to any use in any way to accomplish their goals. It's fair criticism. Although that might extend to even beyond just the characters in the book and maybe certain aspects of the creator of those characters. All right, I'll go on. The many villains are drawn really, really evil, presumably in hopes of justifying our hero's brutality against them. But morality doesn't work that way, and I couldn't avoid the suspicion that the heroes are the monsters. Interesting. That's kind of a little bit of what the book's about. So I was a little bit conscious of that, and that's part of things I realized about myself and things in the characters. And so yeah, that he's right on that. The main character seems to be either worshipped or hated by everyone he meets. The people who hate him are generally punished. There are only 2 women in the book with any significant role. They both quickly fall in love with the main character. All right, okay. It's a book. The plot rambles, then stops. Obviously to be continued. The book could have ended after any other chapter just as easily. Well, that kind of hurts. Hardly any event actually makes any sense. The many billionaires especially fail to act like billionaires. Random example. Our hero checks into a hotel hoping to meet a man who is staying there, the head of a pharmaceutical company, one of the richest men in the world. He finds this fellow in the hotel bar with some of his underlings. What would such a man be doing at a hotel bar? If he wanted to drink with friends, a private room would have been supplied. That's not necessarily true. A lot of high-level corporate executives are not just going to have their own special room somewhere. So you can find them at places, especially fancy hotel bars. So you need to check your research on that, Mr. Reviewer. I won't say your name here. Our hero, and why doesn't he have any security with him? Well, he does. It's just not like anybody in a uniform. And a lot of CEOs don't have security people that travel with them all the time. Ask the CEO of Toyota who got killed by a samurai sword. Wish he had some people protecting. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Japan is a crazy place. Okay. Our hero passes himself off as a research for a rival pharmaceutical company and hints, a little grammatical error there yourself. Hints he might be willing to sell secrets to the millionaire, and they agree to meet later. They do, and a deal is made. But in real life, the billionaire would have been researching this potential source to death before the second meeting. He would have gotten people to interview everyone from the guy's kindergarten teacher to his ex-wife's gynecologist. I don't know about all that. He would have noticed that our guy doesn't resemble the man he claims to be, and the man he claims to be is still at home. I kept thinking, this plan is so bad it has to fail. But then things work out magically. This book, it's not realistic enough. That is, the individual battles are won, but there seems to be no overarching plan for winning a war. It's an interesting criticism. I suppose this might work for you and everything about comic books except their conciseness. And in spite of all the fact that I can't really think of anything good to say about this book, I really didn't find myself hating it. Alrighty then. There really is some appeal to this mess somehow. 18 people found that review helpful, and I was one of them. So I got to thank this guy, and I got to take back, he gave me 2 stars. It wasn't fully a 1-star review. But that's not my favorite negative review. My favorite negative review is this one, and it was for Anne Marie's Asylum, my second book. And it was by a guy whose name is, it kind of rhymes with douchebag. It's similar to that. I'm not going to say it, but it's like, oh, Mr. Blah. Anyway, I found this book, or at least some small portion that I read, disturbing. If I were a teacher and a student turned this in as a writing assignment, I would alert the authorities to watch this kid. Ooh. If I had read the whole thing and found that it appealed to me, I would know that I needed counseling. Nice. The review is titled, Only 8 people found that one helpful. This one's nice too. This one is sort of, this is almost made the top spot. Titled, it's by, I won't say the full title, but Momster. And then there's a number. The title of the review is Boring. I mistakenly thought I had purchased a book by Ian Rankin. This is Anne Marie's Asylum, people. Now, the word Christopher is one of the biggest words on the page. I'll go over that again. I mistakenly thought I had purchased a book by Ian Rankin, but decided to give it a chance. Now, if you're familiar with Ian Rankin's books, now, I don't know how far you would get. I don't understand why you would, if you're trying to read his books, why would you try to read, oh, okay, and expect to be satisfied? Okay, all right. The genre this author writes, I guess that's me, is not something I generally enjoy, but I think even then it was not particularly well written. All right. Well, thank you. And this one, you know, reviews like this are just fair. This one just said, it was titled Morbid, and it said, I couldn't even read this one. It was far too morbid. All right, fair enough. Sometimes these books are a little much, even for me. And I'm reading, as I'm going through the reading of Break the Bastion, I'm getting to a part and I'm like, how could you have written something so fucked up? And like, I'm just like, I don't know. It was a while ago. But I'm writing another one now and it's even more fucked up. And I'm going to think the same thing in a few years. So those are some of my favorite bad reviews. And there have been really good ones. And I love the good ones. And I'm not gonna, maybe I will someday or whatever, but there's no real good productive reason for me to read them for answering the mail. But I do read them all. But it's amazing how much more carefully I seem to subconsciously want to stick to the negative ones. How I will remember them. They will be more of a factor in my thinking. They'll stick in my brain a lot more than a positive review, which just kind of just goes away almost. So, yes, I do read Amazon reviews. And I do sometimes take a little bit of a deep breath and sit down when I do it. So I like the one that if this kid was in my class, that he should be watched. That's a good one. That's one that I think about all the time, and it kind of actually makes me smile. It's inspired me to keep writing. This question number 2 is one I also got. How long does it take to write a book? And I don't know if that's to imply that I'm slow putting out a bunch of books that I've promised, or if this is just an honest question with no kind of tinge to it. So it depends. So I've done it pretty quickly. There have been some times where it takes like a year to 18 months for a book that's shorter. So Enter the Uncreated Night and Break the Bastion they're shorter novels, especially Enter the Uncreated Night. So that took me about maybe a year to 18 months to really write and edit, which was really fast. And I had to really hustle to get that one out. And I remember that was, because I write part-time. So I write, the whole pacing is that in that book, just to give you an idea, that book is like 50,000 words or something like that. Creating Monsters is like over 200,000 words. The one I'm writing right now is about 100,000, and it's going to be divided up into 3 parts. So it's a lot more, there's a lot more easy sort of chunks to write and to read too. And So I don't write like Stephen King does. Who writes 7,000, says he writes 7,000 words a day. And if you look at his output, it makes sense. That's about right. To me, like, even if I had a full day without anything else to do, that seems like impossible to me. That's like Michael Jordan shit of like scoring like 40 points in a game or something, where I'm just like, yeah, I guess it's physically possible, but that's some next level shit. So he's earning his money, that's for sure. So it a year to 18 months is what I normally aim for, to have like an idea that you kind of fully draw out and try to draw into a conclusion. Some of the readers think I don't draw it into a real good conclusion, but it's a matter of opinion. So sometimes it takes a lot longer. So there you notice there's been a significant period of time since publication of my last book, and it's because lots of things happen. You work on other things. You get interested in things. You evolve. Your ideas change. And I've never stopped writing, but I write a few hundred words a day, and that accumulates much more slowly than writing like 1,000 words a day. Or if you really want to get a book out in like a year or 18 months, right? If you can get 500 words a day, 5 days a week, you can really start to make a lot of progress. You'd be amazed. Even if you only get in 4 days a week and like one day it just like doesn't happen every week, you give yourself like a day to cheat or whatever, you'd be surprised how productive you could be. And it's only like an hour or so a day. If you just really kind of dedicate that amount of time, it's amazing like how you can really develop a book in, maybe even a couple years. Your first book's going to take a little longer because you don't know the process. So it's a workflow thing, like doing anything else. So any kind of process that you do, like bake something in a kitchen, build something in, build something in a workshop, or make something in a lab. It's all, you have a workflow, and the more you're used to where everything is and the order of which you do things and the right way to measure things, the easiest workflow, that's when you really start to get good, and you get good and economical, and you don't waste as much time. So that's what's happened. And so you can get that time down. And also you realize you get a voice for yourself, and you're able to see the destination of where you're trying to get to more clearly as time goes on. And every book becomes an easier problem to solve. And it's a really enjoyable experience. I recommend everybody try to do it, and take your time. No one's in a rush, and and like, don't look to even make any money. Just look to express yourself the best way you can. And there are some really good opportunities out there to be able to get your books out, and there's an audience for all kinds of books. So don't think that people want to. There's an audience for things that you think would even be like too fucked up. So give it a try, people. So the final question that I'm going to go over this week is, what are you watching? Well, I haven't been watching very much of the news. I've been, enjoying some of the podcasts, but I've been on a bit of a media blackout with what's going on over the past several months. And what I have been watching it's been a joyous experience. There's been a few movies, and I've reviewed a couple of them. But G.I. Joe is available on YouTube. Hasbro they're putting out all of G.I. Joe. And it was a show I watched all the time growing up. And looking back on it now, I see why I was so fascinated. It is a terrific show that has a lot of interesting science stuff in it. It was the first place that I'd ever heard about DNA. I heard the term DNA, and it's, deoxyribonucleic acid. And I heard what it was on G.I. Joe before I learned about it in school. And you can see these episodes, and there's a lot of comedy in it. It's a really thoughtful, well-written, well-drawn show. And the characters are great, especially Destro. And Cobra Commander, the villains are so funny in the way they fight. And the romance between Destro and the Baroness, the little sex pot Baroness, she's hot. I thought she was so hot when I was a kid. And so, yeah, you get it. You really get it now. And he's an arms dealer, basically. And in Cobra Commander, and just the nature of this, it's like, people would say, oh, it's U.S. military propaganda. And yeah, it most certainly is. But it is charming. It's terrific. It's heroic. It is feel good. It is chicken soup for the soul. And I recommend you put it in front of your kids. They're going to learn good stuff. Some great characters. Jack Nicholson is in it, basically. There is a character, Shipwreck, who just basically does a Jack Nicholson impression. He has a parrot. There are so many great characters in the show. Destro, the villain, being my favorite. Cobra Commander, strangely, wears women's shoes. There's a lot of like really subtle things in the show that I didn't have any real idea about when I was a kid, but I watch it now. I'm like, wow, this show is crazy interesting. Yo, Joe. So I fully recommend G.I. Joe for the whole family. And I never had action figures as a kid. I never got into it. I was always trying to like, I wanted to get samples of chemicals and shit and like do experiments in my little lab in the basement. But now, like, I don't know what it is. I'm getting older. And, we just lost video, but I'm just going to keep going with the audio for a minute. So I can remember that I wasn't interested in action figures when I was a kid. And I, the other day, was shopping on Amazon for a Destro action figure. And I thought to myself, I'm like, what's happening? You're getting older, but anyway. Things are changing. Times are crazy out there. And I hope that everybody's all right. And I just want everybody to hold together as best they can. And I hope that this podcast and, just me bullshitting over my emails a little bit can bring people some comfort. I'm planning to do a few more episodes this week. Oh shit, every time I hear sirens, I'm like, woo! So, but I want everybody to be safe and hold it down tonight. We're going to get through it. We're going to be strong, America. And everybody take care of one another. I love you all. This is Vanadium.